Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Coinsider. Very excited to have a big time guest with me today. We are here today with
Michael Kay. I'm the senior BD manager at ConsenSys, as well as on the product safety team for Metamask.
Amazing. Now, when you hear MetaMask, really they've been dominating the wallet space for years. Now the game has changed quite a bit. There is some real competition out there. Michael, I want to hear what are your thoughts on some of the wallets, like let's say Phantom, Rabby, XDeFi. We got Coinbase Wallet, BitGet Wallet, a lot of new wallets entering the scene, and they're all pretty much promising the same thing, pretty much to be faster, cheaper, and more secure. In your opinion, why should someone stick with MetaMask instead of jumping ship to some of these other wallets?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that people, should take a look at is how long MetaMask has existed. So the code base at this point is about 9 years old, and it was built on EVM infrastructure. So a lot of these other wallets, they kind of got a head start when it came to focusing on multi-chain. So it's really great that now we've revamped that infrastructure and are focusing on Bitcoin support, on Solana support, as well as non-EVM. So it did take a little bit of a lift, but it's because we focus on security and privacy preserving aspects on every layer of the stack. So we don't just implement APIs and turn things on. There's actually a very detailed and strict process and diligence that gets applied with enabling any sort of additional features in MetaMask. So I'm actually happy to say that within the next couple of months, there's going to be a complete UI and UX overhaul, as well as a performance revamp, especially for the mobile version. That's going to be game changing, especially since we're turning on multi-chain, Bitcoin, and Solana. So yeah, we might move slower than other wallets, but it's because we're focusing on a few things internally that I think the users are definitely going to benefit from when it comes to preserving their data, preserving their privacy, and also keeping it secure as possible.
That's huge. That's huge. And I love what you said there when talking about multi-chain integration. And with that being said, MetaMask is actually integrating Solana, right? As I mentioned with competitors, Solana already is pretty much being dominated by Phantom. What would you say is MetaMask's game plan to win over Solana users?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to obviously do with users expect things to be fast and stable. But I think when it comes to privacy and security, it's like it's just something that people don't think about until it's too late. So, I'm very comfortable putting my keys and my seed phrases directly into MetaMask because I know it's completely transparent, it's open source. It gives me the ability to opt out of data usage analytics and as well as turn off different features like smart transactions so I can interface directly with the blockchain. So I think transparency and making sure that users understand hey, each part of this enablement is focusing around the security of the user. Not to say that Phantom's not secure. I mean, big shout out to Phantom. They created an amazing wallet. And I think like all these other wallets, Rabby, Rainbow, the more developers in the space, the better for the ecosystem overall. We don't really look at anyone as competition. I think we all have the ability to help each other out and kind of like grow the space together.
I love it.
So, for me, it's like, you know, what does it take to get the users to understand that there are things in the background that they might be concerned about that they're not thinking about right now. And a lot of the existing users of MetaMask are going to see that massive expansion to Solana and Bitcoin and all these other chains as a massive win because now you don't need five separate wallets to manage your assets on different chains.
Right, right. That's huge. And when you're talking about, managing your assets on chain, back when I first started crypto, MetaMask was the standard. There wasn't all these different wallets. And still, when I think about my key to Web3, I always think about MetaMask first, right? And so would you say that MetaMask is trying to become sort of the super app of Web3 where you can kind of do everything, like your one key to all of Web3?
Yeah, I think, when you talk about it like that, like wallets are the operating system of the future.
Right.
And we want MetaMask to be the homepage of Web3. So whatever EVM network you want to connect, I mean, you could do that now. We allow you to enter in custom RPC information
Right.
and enable any EVM network, which some other wallets don't even let you do. So being able to work with whatever the user's configuration is, being able to interface with any network, multi-chain, EVM, non-EVM, and then also being able to like guardrail the user experience is the ultimate win. as you know, a lot of people that come into crypto, they end up getting scammed because they try to do your own research and they don't really know where to look. So they end up on a scam website, on a scam Discord page, or a compromised Twitter account, and they end up actually getting completely wrecked and then leaving crypto and saying it's a scam and they never want to come back again. So I think that, given the fact that we already have over 35 million monthly active users, and we've focused for the past 9 years on the internal infrastructure of building the most secure wallet, now we can focus on the UI and the UX. And the changes that we have up and coming in the next few months, I mean, people are going to be blown away because we're streamlining the user experience. We're making it so that everything about a chain is discoverable in one guardrailed place. And they don't have to worry about onboarding someone and then getting a call a week later where they're telling them, I just lost everything. What happened to my wallet?
Right.
That's the ultimate win. Like, how do we abstract away all these layers of friction for the user? And I think that we've been doing that, especially with like the acquisition of Wallet Guard.
Right.
So I come from the Wallet Guard acquisition where we
Oh,
detect
wow.
wallet drainer kits and, we show you, transactions in plain English.
Wow.
And we just finished implementing that Wallet Guard security engine directly into MetaMask over the past month. So now you don't need a separate security extension. It's now part of the wallet. And if
Wow.
we get to the point of, yeah, if we get to the point of like removing all these layers of friction, like for example, the need to switch networks,
Right.
you might have noticed over the past month, we released another update to MetaMask where you can have 5 tabs open in a browser and you can be on 5 different networks. You could be on Polygon, Arbitrum, Ethereum. And as you switch from tab to tab, MetaMask is actually automatically switching the network for you. You no longer have to manually switch networks. So like,
Wow.
all,
How fast
yeah,
does that
all
work?
instantly.
Wow.
You don't have to do anything. It's completely seamless. So we're getting to the point of abstracting away the need to switch networks. We're getting to the point of abstracting away to have multiple security extensions. We're getting rid of seed phrases and private keys as we implement account abstraction and EIP 4337, where we also just started launching and have already implemented the MetaMask gas station, which allows you to perform gasless transactions. You no longer need a gas token. You can use the token that you're natively transacting with, right? So think about this. Like if we're rolling out all these changes and when you're onboarding someone into crypto, they now isn't 500 steps you have to tell them to remember.
Right.
That's the ultimate win.
Right. I love what you mentioned about UX, and that's the number one way for onboarding users, making it easy, making it seamless. They don't have to scroll between all these different chains every time they're going to a new dApp. It's all built in. And that actually also brought us to one of our next questions here. You mentioned fees, a new gasless native token fee integration. If we can ask about that. So some competitors claim that MetaMask swap fees are actually too high. Now, I was going to ask if you did have plans to lower them or introduce native gasless transactions, but it sounds like you already covered that.
Yeah. So the thing with MetaMask is that when you're performing a swap, a bridge, a ramped transaction, which you can do directly inside of MetaMask,
Right.
we're actually an aggregator of aggregators. So we're hitting multiple different providers in order to get you the best rate. So when you're talking about gasless transactions, what we're doing is actually reducing a lot of the user friction. Let's say you onboard your friend into crypto,
Right.
and you send them a little bit of Pepe. Well, now they could transact in that Pepe or perform a swap using that same Pepe token, as opposed to going to Uniswap and then being told, hey, you don't have enough ETH for gas. Well, now
Right.
you got to explain them the whole concept of gas and the fact that they now have to go buy ETH, right? So,
Every time.
again, yeah, yeah, just removing the layers of friction for the user is the ultimate win. So, look, I mean, we aggregate from multiple resources. You could still use other providers, but I think knowing that it's being done the right way, it's through a smart transaction, that it's confirmed and validated directly inside of our own environment gives the
Right.
user more confidence in actually doing the swap or the bridge in MetaMask.
That's huge. That's huge. So that makes things just a lot more seamless for users. Now, I want to get into another topic really quickly. Now, MetaMask has no token yet. A few wallets have been launching tokens. Every time there's an announcement, people kind of go crazy speculating about an airdrop. Are you teasing the community on purpose, or is there really no token coming? If you could let us know.
I can't comment on that. That's a question that I get asked all the time.
Okay.
I think what the most important thing is that we focus on making the product the best product, as
Okay.
opposed to just giving away free money, right? Like, don't you, the ultimate win is to change the sentiment of the product even before even thinking about doing a token, right? Like we're a wallet, we're not an NFT project, we're not a
Right,
token itself. We're actually something that you're using to navigate Web3.
right.
So it's a little bit of a different play. And I think, I can't say much, but the end goal is to obviously have the best product. And I think we're really aiming towards that. And 2025 is going to be the year of MetaMask if it hasn't been already. Um,
I feel
so
like every
super
year is
exciting
getting like,
stuff coming.
yeah,
What's up?
yeah. I mean, MetaMask has been dominating for so long. I feel like every year is a little bit like MetaMask year. So you mentioned that you actually joined MetaMask from this security acquisition, and you were with that company first, and then got integrated right into MetaMask, and a lot of these security features are being built right in. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. So I come from the Wallet Guard acquisition from about
Wallet
nine
card.
months ago. So
Right.
Wallet Guard is myself and a team of four other guys that we all about 3 years ago met on Twitter Spaces.
Oh wow.
So big, big shout out to Ohm and Martin, the co-founders of Wallet Guard. I saw a Twitter space talking about security in Web3, and this was during the time where everyone was getting wrecked. There wasn't like a lot of security tools, or there wasn't even anything to protect you. So
Right.
when I jumped into that Twitter space, we were vibing. We were talking about Web 2 cybersecurity, Web 3 cybersecurity. I've been in cybersecurity my whole life, so it was a really fun conversation.
Wow.
And they ended up sending me a DM after the space, and they wanted me to become a brand ambassador. And it was an unpaid position, but I was happy doing it because I can reference a tool, something that is open source, something that's completely free that saves people from getting drained. And during that time, there was only about 300 installs. And we were able to scale it together to over 130,000 installs before we got acquired by MetaMask and ConsenSys.
Damn.
So yeah, the great part about Journey, by the way, was about 6 months after being a brand ambassador, they gave me a full-time position as
Wow.
partnership director. And we all actually ended up dropping everything we're doing and moved from all around the world to one hacker house. And we lived together for a year and a half,
What?
24/7 to hyperscale Wallet Guard to the point of acquisition.
Wow. To all you watching out there, take that as inspiration. That's a lesson right there. You got to push. Now you've been acquired by MetaMask and you're integrating your what you've built into the biggest wallet in crypto. Guys,
Yeah,
take that as
because
inspiration.
think about this. Like we could have monetized Wallet Guard eventually and
Right.
charged people for a pro version and made money.
Right.
But, after screaming from the mountaintops and trying to get people to install a separate extension, we got to over 100,000 users. But
Wow.
when MetaMask and ConsenSys reached out and we said to ourselves, hey, this technology that we've built out has already saved people over $60 million from scammers, and that's
Wow.
only with 100,000 people as users.
Right.
MetaMask has 35 million monthly active users.
Whew.
This could change the landscape for crypto. So like
Right.
we were like, regardless of what the acquisition cost was, or regardless of what we had to do, we were like, this is the ultimate win. Let's implement our security engine directly into MetaMask and change the landscape for crypto security.
W's in the chat. W's in the chat. Very, very impressive, man. So it's great to have you on. Speaking of all that, there's a lot of new things being integrated into MetaMask as a whole, bringing us to our next topic, which is game changers and new features. We have the MetaMask card. Pretty much enables spending crypto in real life. We're going to get into all of that. But finally, we have Bitcoin and Solana support over on MetaMask. What were the biggest headaches in integrating non-EVM chains, or were you not really too involved with that?
I'm not directly involved with it since I'm not like on the dev side, I'm more on the BD side, but I can
Right.
tell you right now that changing the infrastructure of an application that's already has a 9-year-old code base to be completely different is a massive lift, especially when we're so concerned and focused on security and privacy preservation, right? Like we need to look at every layer of that enablement, the code base, the support, making sure nothing existing breaks, because even simple changes in a product that has tens of millions of users can completely throw, the user experience off the
Right.
map, right? So
Right.
we're attacking and getting this done in the most logical way possible. And that's why I'm saying like it takes a little bit of time, but it's going to be worth it.
Right. And that makes me sort of think of Snaps, right? MetaMask Snaps, which pretty much, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, but lets third-party devs sort of build inside MetaMask. Would you say? Can
Yeah.
you tell the audience what MetaMask Snaps is about?
Yeah, exactly. So MetaMask Snaps lets you as a developer build out your application directly inside of MetaMask. So, for example, Wallet Guard used to be a MetaMask Snap Well, now
Wow.
it's natively part of MetaMask.
No
So you
way.
can, yeah, yeah. So snaps
Oh,
are a
okay.
great avenue to be able to like show as a developer, like, hey, I have this, we want to enable a network. You can actually enable Solana support right now in your MetaMask using the
Using
Soulflare snap.
snaps. Yes,
Yeah.
I've heard of the Soulfare snap. So
Yep. So
that's why I was a little curious when I heard they're integrating, I guess, Solana natively, right? I guess you wouldn't
yeah.
need the snap now. That's the new.
Exactly. So like it would be part of the wallet. You wouldn't need to enable something else, but
Right.
snaps are massive because there's security snaps, there's asset snaps, there's chains, there's even tax snaps. So like a lot of different snaps that you can enable as a user to get more functionality out of the wallet as opposed to having 10 different extensions. Those 10 extensions
Wow.
could most likely live natively in a guardrailed environment, sandboxed directly inside of MetaMask.
Wow. So that's really what MetaMask Snaps is building. And so then would you say like as time goes on and more developers start using MetaMask Snaps, we could see all different types of snaps. You mentioned taxes, maybe some IRL, RWA usage and different things like dedicated snaps, right? So,
Exactly. I could actually share my screen real quick,
okay.
if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So let's see. Let me know if you could see the screen here.
Yep. We're live.
Awesome. So yeah, this is MetaMask Snaps, and you could take a look at all the different types of snaps. So there's snaps that enable more chains. So you can enable XRP, Starknet, Tezos, Solana, Cosmos, all these, build on Bitcoin. You can enable ordinal support directly
Wow.
inside of your MetaMask. So these are just a lot of things that people just don't know about.
Damn, I did
Um,
not know.
yeah. You can enable different types of alerts and notifications. You could be notified when, with push notifications when certain metrics are hit. Um,
What?
yeah, tons of different snaps, and they're all in different categories. Here's the Wallet Guard snap, which actually will be sunset over the next week because now it's
Because now
natively
it's built
in.
in. Right.
Exactly,
Wow,
exactly.
that's really cool. And then it looks like, to be honest, most of like the top things on Web3, I see Cosmos Wallet. So Cosmos Wallet Snap. So you're pretty much using, you have access to like Cosmos Wallet through your MetaMask wallet.
Exactly. You're just turning on Cosmos inside of MetaMask.
Wow. And then, so it looks like there's pretty much one for all the main sort of chains and ecosystems in DeFi as a snap. So you can pretty much already do basically everything. Sui Snap we're seeing right now. Um,
Exactly.
That's pretty wild. I actually did not know this, to be honest. I knew snaps. I've heard about snaps before, but I didn't know it was so vast on all the different ecosystems that you can access right from MetaMask. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, look, when it comes down to it, like I'm comfortable putting my keys and my seed phrases inside of MetaMask because I know the security layers that are behind it. And to
Right.
be able to do all of these other snaps and know that they're in a sandboxed environment, they don't have the ability to like take your private keys or read your seed phrase I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. Like you're expanding the functionality without affecting the security. And you can have a lot more support besides what's available out of the box by default.
That's wild. And so pretty much you mentioned it's a sandbox sort of ecosystem. So do devs have free reign to sort of create anything that they want and put it up as a snap? Is it like in a decentralized manner, or do they have to be sort of approved before a snap can go up?
Yeah, not anybody can just submit a snap and it gets uploaded. That would be detrimental to security.
Right.
So
Yeah,
each,
I figured.
yeah, each snap goes through an approval process. There's diligence. There's audits that are applied, making sure that the code is open source so users know exactly what's happening in the background. So
Right.
all these things are checked off
Right.
before you get listed in the snaps directory, but it's to the benefit of the user at the end of the day.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Perfect. So I'm not sure if you are a part of that review process. I was gonna ask if you've seen any sort of crazy snaps being submitted.
I'm not part of the approval process on the
Okay.
Snap side, but
Yeah.
I've seen some really ridiculous ideas brought up by people trying to build snaps.
Right. I
Um,
figured.
but it's always funny to see what people are cooking up.
Right.
So yeah,
Because people are cooking up
it's
pretty
going to
much anything
expand.
in crypto, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, it's going to expand, right? Like it's
Right.
becoming like the DApp store of Web3, right? Like
Right.
you could just turn on new features. It's like it turns into an operating system, like we were
Right.
talking about before. Wallets are the operating system of Web Next.
Right. Right. Very cool. So, from anything you heard, are there any snaps coming soon that you think will pretty much change, completely change how we use wallets, or any snaps upcoming that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, anything that's upcoming, I can't necessarily comment on, but anything that's already there, obviously it makes a massive change to the way that you work with MetaMask. And look, like there's a lot of things that we just don't necessarily talk about because we're building it in the background and we want users to discover it. Like we're going to start advertising a few more of these things, but Snaps is something that a lot of users don't know exist, right?
Right.
Lava Moat, which is proprietary technology that MetaMask has built out so that our wallet is not susceptible to supply chain attacks, is something that is not often spoken about. We also provide a public good as a service for ETH phishing detect, where all of the heuristics that we gather and wallet drainers that we block, we actually feed that data to all of our other wallets, even our competitors. So
Wow.
these are things that we have underlying infrastructure for, as well as even things like DIN, which is decentralized infrastructure network, where that ConsenSys has created that deals with hundreds of Web 2 and Web 3 companies so
Right.
that all the resources are there for anyone that wants to build in Web 3. You need node providers, you need indexers, you need metadata and all these other things. Like tap in. ConsenSys and
Right.
MetaMask has all the underlying infrastructure already built out for you to be as successful as possible.
Right. Right. That's perfect. That's perfect. So let's get into the next one. One I'm really excited about. The MetaMask card is officially here. And would you say this is the first step to maybe full on crypto banking?
I would say definitely. I think one of the biggest things that people ask when they're coming from Web 2 to Web 3, they say, well, where can I actually use my crypto? Right?
Right.
Like that's one of the biggest things. And they say like, how easy is it for me to use my crypto? So in real life, and generally the process is kind of convoluted. You have to off ramp. Sometimes you have to send it to an exchange, deal with the high exchange rates,
Right.
send it back to your checking account, wait days for it to post before you could finally use your crypto to pay a bill or to buy something. Well, you no longer have to. So
Oh,
with the MetaMask card, it lets you connect your on-chain self-custodied wallet so that you can use your crypto at over 150 million merchants worldwide.
wow.
And
So
think about how
anywhere Mastercard's accepted.
anywhere MasterCard's accepted globally, you can use your crypto. And you also get crypto rewards back on every transaction.
That's huge. What was it? 1% USDC per transaction or something like
So
that?
1% USDC on the virtual card,
Okay.
3% USDC on the metal card,
Oh
and up
wow.
to an additional 8%. So you could get up to 11% back on every transaction because
Wow.
of different rewards structures that we have worked out with communities. So the
Okay.
MetaMask card is actually a great way to distribute community rewards, airdrops, and different claims because
Oh,
each person of the MetaMask card has proof of humanity and is
right.
Sybil resistant. We
Right.
don't need to know, and the project doesn't need to know your name or any information about you, but they can confirm that you're a real person. So you're eliminating bots and farmers from the equation so that all the liquidity goes to real people.
Wow, that's huge. That's huge. See, I have a background in airdrop farming. I used to make a lot of threads, tutorials, and stuff like that on farming airdrops. And one of the biggest things when it comes to security and filtering out users is Cybils, right? There's users who are farming airdrops on 10, 20, 30 wallets. It takes 2 seconds to make a new wallet. Maybe they're using VPNs and trying to get a little bit creative, but bots has always been a huge issue, not just in crypto, but in the internet overall. So now
Yeah.
with every user that holds a card, projects could immediately verify that, okay, that's a real person, a real user. So do you get a unique wallet address when you get the card?
No, no,
You
no.
tie it
You
to the
you
wallet.
are you are connecting whatever wallet you want to the
Right.
card. We're
Wow.
not we're So this is different than a centralized exchange card, right?
Okay.
Like there is no exchange holding your assets. You are holding your assets.
Right.
This is different than a top-up crypto card where you're sending your crypto to be used, but there's super high fees involved with
Right.
that, and you
Yeah.
actually don't hold your own keys.
Right.
This is not a credit card. There's no credit check, right? Like there's a lot of different things that make this card stand out when you compare it to any other crypto card. And the fact that like let's pretend, right? Because people ask this question, let's pretend Mastercard closes the account or there's
Right.
more documentation required. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Why? Because You're still your own on-chain self-custodied wallet. You
Right.
still got your own keys and your assets aren't affected. It's the ultimate win.
And we haven't seen it like that yet. So in the background, it's selling, let's say, some of your crypto for fiat and making that transaction all sort of in one swoop, right? In partnership with
Yeah,
MetaMask.
instant finality. It doesn't matter to you as the user what's happening after the fact that you submitted the transaction, but there's actually a settlement taking place instantly, and also dealing with Mastercard as the merchant and
Right,
banks, BAANX, as the settlement layer
right.
that handles the entire process for the user.
So it's seamless pretty much. It's smooth, just like you're making a regular transaction. When you talk about user adoption and you talk about real world use cases, right? People always say, as you mentioned, what can I do with my crypto? So now you can actually use it as you would regular cash through the MetaMask card partnership with a Mastercard. Fair to say?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Very dope.
You literally have the ability to, sorry, you literally have the ability to immediately use your crypto anywhere. So,
Right.
and this is, sometimes people are like, well, why would I want to spend my crypto? Well,
Right.
just FYI, there are people out there that sell their crypto so they can buy things.
Every day.
So that,
Every day.
like, so why deal with multiple days of wait times, super high fees, dealing with banks, dealing with centralized exchanges, when you can simply connect your on-chain wallet and use it immediately anywhere and get rewards? I mean, it's a no-brainer. Like, I'm living in the year 2035. I use this thing everywhere.
That
Everywhere that I go, I'm like, do you take crypto? And they're looking at me all weird. And I'm like, can I try it out? And when I try it, they're like, yo, what is that? Tell me more about that. Like,
that's BD. That's a BD masterclass right there. BD
exactly.
masterclass. Well done. Well done. I like that a lot. So, do you
Yeah.
think, let's say, in the future, we can see this grow so big to where we see salaries getting deposited directly into MetaMask? You think that's something that's in the pipeline?
Well,
Because you
just,
see some
yeah.
NFL players saying they'll take their salary in Bitcoin. Let's say for MetaMask Mastercard users, they can take their salary in Solana, for example. And do you think that's something we could see in the future?
1,000%. I'm actually doing it myself right now. Part of my ConsenSys payroll is in crypto, and that crypto gets deposited directly to my own self-custodied wallet, and then I can use it anywhere.
That's
No
so
more.
fire.
I don't need a bank anymore. And guess what?
Right.
Within a few weeks, we're releasing automatic yield. So my money sitting in my own bank is earning money, as opposed to it sitting in a checking account where I'm getting 0.007%. Like,
Right.
you are now your own bank,
Right.
and you reward yourself not only with your money sitting there, but also on every transaction. No bank is doing that. Like, no.
Right.
And if they are, you need unprecedented amounts of value to be sitting inside of your account. There are no fees when it comes to setting up a MetaMask card. There's no overdraft fees. There's no minimum balance fee. Like, you're your own bank. You make the rules.
Right.
This is the future of how people are going to debank themselves. This is the
Right.
ultimate win.
That's so fire. If I'm not mistaken, a few coins are compatible with this to begin with.
There's USDC, USDT, there's wrapped ETH, wrapped Bitcoin. But the thing is there's also a couple of meme coins on Linea. But the concept is to add more networks and more coins to be supported,
Right.
and to also make it super easy so that you can bridge and swap in a single transaction with insanely low fees if you want to use something that's not supported yet.
Right.
So in MetaMask Portfolio, when you're performing a swap transaction, you can actually choose any network, any token, and choose to bridge and swap it in a single transaction with very low fees to Linea, which is our own L2, which is supported
Right.
on this card right now.
Okay.
So the ultimate win in the future is, yeah, you want to use any token, you want to use any network, as long as the network supports, very quick block times, because
Right.
also we want to keep the fees low. Like, there's no
Right.
reason for people to pay $20 gas fee for something that's worth $5. The
Right.
gas fees on this card on each transaction are like 0.002 cents.
Oh, wow.
So
And
yeah,
that's because it's running on Linea, right? Which already has very low fees, right?
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
cool. And so you mentioned that in the future, as long as other, let's say, EVMs are compatible, cheap enough to be bridged over and sold.
In the future, we want native integration. We want it
Right.
so, like, you're on a certain network, you just approve spend on the card and you can use your tokens, right? So, like,
Right.
one of the questions is, like, if I connect my wallet to this, number one, like, am I doxing myself? And number two, does someone have the ability to steal my card and use all my stuff without me knowing? So those are great questions. So when it comes down to doxing, like, you are dealing with a level of centralization because you are interfacing with traditional payment rails,
Right.
which is what makes this possible.
Right.
But you can spin up a fresh wallet and connect it and use that. You don't have to dox all of your existing assets. So that's like an easy win. And then when it comes down to, like, what actual spend can you do? What happens if your wallet gets stolen? It
Right.
has all the protections of traditional credit and debit cards. So you do have the ability to remotely lock the card. You do have the
Right.
ability to report fraud as well as chargebacks, but you
Okay.
also have the ability for Web3 security layers. So just because you connect your wallet to the card doesn't mean that all your assets are available to spend. You still have to set your token approvals and your spending limits. And this is something that you are doing because you are your own bank. So, for example, you could set priority. You could say, hey, for entertainment purchases, I want to prioritize using up to $200 of USDC. And then
Mm.
if that is spent, then I want you to start tapping into my wrapped Ethereum up to $500. And if
Wow.
it's more than that amount, deny the transaction. So you
Wow.
can granularly configure your token spend because it's a Web3 self-custodied
Right.
card,
Right.
you know?
That's crazy. So I can go ahead and configure it as to how it's spending the crypto when it does. Like start with this bag per se. Let's say something is overbought. Anytime I'm doing spending with the card, I'm going to use that, and I can change what assets it uses
Exactly.
in a very detailed manner.
Exactly. You can
That's really
even,
cool.
there's things come up and coming where you have the ability to leverage like an on-chain loan, right? So
Right.
like, when people get credit cards, the credit card rates are anywhere from like 24% to 30%. On-chain loans are like 10%.
Right.
So if you're proving that you're a real person, which you're already doing because you have the card,
Right.
and you already show, the history of assets that you have, you're getting an instant on-chain loan that's leveraged against like unmodifiable information
Right.
on the blockchain, right? Like so
Yeah, that's
so
huge.
like this is the future of banking. You don't like I don't like what do you need a bank for? To a
Right.
certain extent, like why do you need a bank that's just sitting there charging you fees and not giving you yield and also not
Right.
giving you rewards? It's like having a debit card with credit card rewards.
Right. That's huge. That's huge. Okay, so now traditional security risks for credit cards, Mastercards, debit cards, are these sort of amplified now that this card is connected to your wallet, your crypto wallet? Like, let's say, for instance, one of the old school ways was those scanners that they
The
place over
skimmers.
the skimmers, right? The skimmers that they'll place over, ATMs and POS systems. Let's say an attacker was to get a user with that, would they get access to their crypto wallet?
No. So they're not to the terminal and to the merchant. They don't know, they don't need to know what's happening because
Right.
banks, which is BAANX, not to be confused with just banks in general,
Right.
but banks is the settlement layer that's making the transaction occur. This does not mean the merchant or the skimmer has access to the fact that you're even using a crypto card.
Oh
They're
wow.
still seeing it as a Mastercard traditional debit card settlement. And even on chain, the on-chain data is not showing the merchant you're using it at. It's all privacy preserving, right? So like we don't need to know any information. The merchant doesn't need to know any information, but it's not like you're exposing your keys. You're not exposing your wallet address. These are all things that are happening in the background.
Okay, wow. Okay. So all of the crypto, all the on-chain stuff is happening in the background, and pretty much if somebody was to get a skimmer, they would get just the card information. They wouldn't get any of your crypto information.
Exactly. They would get the card information just like you would off of a traditional skimmer because we're
Right.
still using traditional credit or debit. But
Right.
the thing is that let's say they go and try to spend $1,000 at Home Depot.
Right.
Um, you didn't give access to the card for using all of your tokens and assets. You gave
Right.
it minimal spending allowance. So they go and try to swipe it, they're automatically denied
Right.
because
Perfect.
you didn't even give the approval for that. Unlike a credit card, which it'll go through, you'll get hit with a fee because it's going over the balance. Then you have to prove that it wasn't you, and then like like
That
it's
whole
it's a
process.
completely different
Right.
scenario.
Yeah. 100% cool. Well, keeping it on this same topic of security, I kind of want to get into that sort of the dark side of Web 3. Now, when you talk about 2024, there was $2.2 billion in crypto that was stolen, and this was due to hacks and exploits. And this is actually a 17% increase from 2023. And I just want to ask, like, what is MetaMask doing to keep their users safe? For example, Microsoft recently warned that malware is specifically targeting MetaMask users. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so malware has been targeting all users of all crypto wallets. MetaMask is obviously one of the largest user bases, so
Right,
obviously that's going to be the first thing that's reported on. But
right,
this malware affects your Web 2 and your Web 3 data. And the solution is not to just throw away the internet. The solution is to make sure you have your security set up the right way, regardless if it's Web 2 or Web 3. This is the problem, is that a lot of people that are coming into self-custody and to become their own banks don't implement at least a layer of security, because banks have multiple layers of security, and we're expecting the masses to be onboarded when they don't even know the importance of an antivirus, where they believe that just because they're using a Mac computer, they never have to worry about getting scammed. These things are not true. This is why education and also podcasts like this, and thank you for inviting me, are so
of course.
important,
Yeah,
because it's easy wins, right? Like, we need to Web 2 before we Web 3. We need to understand the concept of being our own banks. And,
right,
with MetaMask Learn and the Wallet Guard Academy, we provide unlimited free resources on information on how to set up your device securely, how to prevent malware, how to stay away from social engineering and phishing attempts, because these are all things that existed before Web 3, but they affect your Web 3 assets. Trojans, malware, password stealers,
fishing. Yeah,
viruses, phishing, social engineering, these all exist regardless of crypto or not. You
right,
just need to make sure that you know that there are ways to set up your device and ways to navigate the internet where you don't have to worry like 99% of people worry, because
right,
they're afraid to be secure. It's fear of the unknown. And most likely, it's just human nature, and I don't blame you. Most
right.
likely, you're not going to care about doing any security until you get your wallet drained, until you get your files stolen,
Yeah,
until
you
you
got.
lose your files. Let's just
Sometimes you
be
got to learn the
honest.
hard way. Sometimes it takes a black swan event to sort of be a catalyst for someone to start taking proper care of their wallet. So I urge all you in the audience, do not procrastinate. Make sure you're taking measures to keep your wallet safe. It could just take one link, one social engineering scam, or we see Discord servers get taken over, right, by malicious actors, and then they'll do a fake announcement leading to a fake site, and users get their wallet drained all of the time. Now, phishing
And
scams are
and just really quickly, just want to
yeah,
comment, because on the MetaMask side of things, when it comes to Web3 threats like wallet drainers and malicious transactions,
right,
we got blockade, we got wallet guard, we got multiple levels of security heuristics so that the user understands in plain English what's about to happen before it happens, and so
right,
that we can block wallet drainers before you even have to enter the website. But again, that's at the wallet level. The threat that you're talking about, which is malware, is at the system level. And
okay,
that affects not only Web 3, but it affects Web 2 as well. So this is why it's so important to understand, like, you need to set up that security. And this is something that we, again, talk about in the MetaMask Learn, as well as the Wallet Guard Academy, so that
right.
you could set your stuff up the right way and feel a million times better navigating the internet. And knowing that if you do accidentally click on something wrong, you have multiple layers of defense between you and the threat. So pick one. You can either sit there sweating and shaking every time you're browsing the internet about to click on the link, or you can take care of your security, lock your devices and your accounts down so that in case something does go wrong, you're prepared, you're ready, and you know that you have the right defense in place.
Well said, well said. Now, phishing scams, as we spoke on, actually are still the number one way people lose their funds. Now, what does MetaMask have in place for scam detection?
Yeah, so we've actually done a lot of updates to the way that, you're warned that something is a scam. So now you'll have, a red button as opposed to just like a warning message. You'll have the warning message and the red button. You'll be told multiple times, like, hey, this is something you probably don't want to do. This is not a verified site. This is a malicious transaction. And look, at the end of the day, it's up to the user to just simply read,
Right,
right?
right.
But
And
the
those
problem
laws,
is that most people just FOMO and they want to move on to the next thing and get to the next step.
right.
So it really comes down to, like, confirming that you actually are taking a look at what's about to happen before it happens, because we're warning you. Like MetaMask is clearly warning the user multiple times before something is claiming to be a free mint, but is actually stealing everything, or is
Right.
claiming to be a token drop, but is actually asking you for things it shouldn't be asking you for. So, that's why I think, like we were talking about it before, how can the wallet get rid of all these layers of friction? Well, it's because we're implementing the security layers and the abstraction of all these different variables directly at the wallet level. And it's
Right.
just going to keep getting better. So,
Right. That's huge. That's huge. Now we talked about phishing and a few other types of scams. Another one that we've been seeing more in recent times is sandwich attacks. You hear about MEV bots. Just recently, there was a sandwich attack that went viral. I believe a user lost six figures. I think it was 300K, something like that. Any measures to protect their users from sandwich attacks?
yeah, users of MetaMask during the entire year of 2024, sandwich attacks for the entire user base of MetaMask, about $11 was lost.
Oh wow.
So that's compared to millions of
Right.
lost from sandwich attacks by
That's
through
huge.
other means, through other wallets. So
Eleven
this is
dollars.
again
We're
what
gonna
I'm
clip
talking
that.
about when it comes. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, sorry. Go on, go on. I'm just saying we're gonna clip
Yeah.
that. That's huge. I didn't know that. $11. That's gonna be like a good clip.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I keep talking about, like, there's a lot of underlying infrastructure that's
Right.
part of MetaMask that isn't spoken about often, but it's
Right.
there protecting the user. And it took many years of development, auditing, and making sure it's privacy preserving so that users, are protected at the best way possible, right? So, great question about sandwich attacks. That's something that users of MetaMask are obviously not as susceptible to as opposed to every other wallet.
Right.
And this is something that we do through smart transactions where we're confirming that it's not going to be a sandwich attack if you were to
Right.
submit this transaction, and these are the breakdowns and all of the information tied to that transaction. So definitely a great question, and another reason why we stand out in the background generally, because
Right.
again, people don't care about security or privacy until they lose everything.
Right.
But we're making sure our users don't. So they're not thinking
Yes.
about the fact that it's protecting them the entire time.
Right, right. So as big as MetaMask is, it's still slept on in some regards when it comes to things like security, which may not be always be the sexiest topic, I guess, among retail users and the general public, but it goes such a long way. See, one thing I didn't know that you have told us today is that MetaMask users lost a total of $11 to sandwich attacks last year. Accurate? That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's just in the month of. Let me just get this information real quick. So just in the month of July,
Right.
I'll tell you right now. Give me 1 second here.
Take your time.
Sandwich attack. I actually made a post on this the other day. Okay. So during the month of July, in 2024, $11 million was lost to MEV bots and sandwich attacks. But out of the $11 million, MetaMask users were $5.
Wow.
So
So
in a
that
single month, you're talking about over $10 million being lost to sandwich attacks,
right.
while MetaMask users only lost $5 to sandwich attacks
Among 35 million users.
among 35 million monthly active users.
That's crazy. That's
And
crazy.
then and then there's also another great statistic: money lost due to reverted transactions or failed transactions.
Right.
Um, Other wallets during the month of July 2024, 778 Ethereum was lost. MetaMask users during the month of July in 2024, 0.125 Ethereum.
Damn. Life flex, security flex right there. Security flex. They don't talk about this enough, man. They don't talk about this enough. But if you are a seasoned user in crypto, you know how big that is. That's like music to my ears. Crypto is like a minefield when it comes to scams and different ways to get wrecked. The opportunity in crypto is amazing, but the risk is there too with things like scams, not just price action. And when you hear about a wallet just saving their users so much money from things like sandwich attacks and different sorts of grifts out there, that goes a long way. And you thank yourself later, when you still have your funds in your crypto.
That is true. Yeah, I mean it's huge. Again, it's not something that most users are thinking about because it's already protecting them anyway. But if you
Right.
compare the statistics based on what MetaMask users are doing and what other wallet users are doing, it's uncomparable. I mean, you're talking about you're talking about 11 million lost compared to $5. Like
Yeah.
we're not in the same like even planet.
Different conversation. Yeah, it's a different conversation.
Yeah.
And guys, things like this is why MetaMask has been the dominant wallet for so long and is the standard when it comes to Web3 and crypto. And so many people trust their funds on MetaMask, connecting to different chains and different networks because they have top-notch security and are the most compatible wallet across different dApps across the ecosystem. So it's very cool to hear that from you and kind of get into that. Now, so we talked about sort of different ways users can lose money in crypto. One common one is actually just regular human error when we're talking about self-custody of your private keys, self-custody of your seed phrase. We've heard of people dropping it into the ocean, forgetting it somewhere. Do you think that eventually we're going to see different recovery options without sacrificing self-custody? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think with account abstraction, EIP 4337, getting rid of seed phrases and private keys and relying more on smart contracts to handle a lot of the security of an actual wallet account. I think we're going to get to the point where we're slowly abstracting away the need to like have that much thought involved of like keeping your own wallet safe, because there's too many variables when you're trying to onboard someone into self-custody because they want convenience over security. They're not necessarily going to think about writing their seed phrase down and never exposing it digitally, as opposed to just screenshotting it real quick when they're setting up their wallet and they could think about this thing later. What they're not realizing is they're screenshotting it, and let alone they have their entire photo and video library, as well as their entire notes app and their entire credential store synced with the cloud. And if someone gets into their account, guess what they have access to? Your
Everything.
entire life.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a matter of educating the user and letting the users know, like, hey, at a Web 2 level, what exactly are you giving away? And what level of trust are you giving into providers that you're using right now? Because all of these apps and websites that you use on a daily basis are made by third parties, and you're giving a level of trust at some point. When you're talking about self-custody, the only person that you should be questioning the trust of is yourself. And that's if you get to the point of setting it up the right way. Otherwise, you've already compromised your own trust. So when you choose to self-custody, do not have a lever of trying to figure out convenience over security. You want security first. And if you take what most people do in Web 2, which is they hit allow, continue, agree, accept, next on anything that pops up on any device, you bring that mentality into Web 3, you are going to get wrecked.
You're cooked.
You're finished. You're
You're cooked.
finished. So
You're cooked.
that's why I'm saying, like, when you know the prerequisites and you understand how to set up your devices the right way, you're not sitting there running virus scans and changing your passwords and dealing with updates. I'm not. I'm not dealing with any of that. I'm enjoying using my devices because I know everything's properly set up. You can enjoy dealing with a million notifications and pop-ups and 50 different pages of apps that you haven't used in months, sitting there constantly data mining you, using battery life and taking up storage. That's on you. Like, you know, but I'm telling you how to do it the right way. It's just a matter of you sitting down and just doing it.
Right? The more you know, the more you know. And so then what would you say is the most common mistake that you see users making? Or that
Rushing.
okay.
Rushing, FOMOing, not reading, not realizing what they're about to do. Nothing in this space really requires you to rush. They make it seem like it's, oh, you're going to miss out if you don't do this, but take a step back and really try to understand what you're about to do. And if you are doing something, please, the most easy way to handle it is at least make sure you are employing some level of wallet segregation. Don't keep everything in one wallet that's important to you. So that if that wallet gets compromised, you lose everything. You're literally setting yourself up for failure. And it costs nothing to spin up another wallet. So really think about that.
Yeah, 2 seconds, right? That's huge. Okay, so basically users, they rush too fast, especially when they're new to crypto. I feel like this is common among newcomers. You know, they have the rush, they have the high. Maybe they're getting into a new pre-sale or a NFT mint, and they saw that their friend, you know, got a 10x on the last one, and they're just clicking through, and they don't know that they're on the wrong site altogether, the phishing site or whatever it might be. I say that's a huge
And really, really quickly, the reason why they think like that, and this is the unfortunate part, 99% of people are onboarded into crypto under the pretense that they're going to 1000x their money.
right away.
Okay. So the way that I onboard people into crypto is I don't even mention money or crypto.
Right.
I mention things that they're doing on a daily basis and how we can remove multiple layers of middlemen from the equation. So, for example, paying a bill at a restaurant. If you talk to someone that's unsure about crypto or thinks crypto is confusing about something they're already familiar with, like paying a bill at a restaurant, you walk into the restaurant, you have a Visa, Mastercard, you're paying with money that's sitting in a bank like Chase or Bank of America.
Right.
There is a point of sale system that they're swiping the card through. There's a merchant service provider that sells the business, the point of sale system.
Right.
There's the ramps in between, which is why it takes 3 to 5 days for transactions to post. There's the business's bank account, which might be different than your bank account. Like,
Right.
there's like 10 middlemen in between every transaction you're doing, and
Yeah.
you're completely okay with it.
Most people don't even know that, right?
They don't even know that. They don't care to know it because it's just easy and it works. But now you dial it back and you say, I'm going to tell you how it works when you're using crypto. You walk into the same restaurant, you are your own bank, the business is its own bank. The money goes from you to the business within seconds, not days,
Right.
and you actually own your own assets. And they always say, I've never been told about crypto like that. I've always been told, like, buy this Dogecoin, buy this, we're going to make a ton of money. But then you don't even know what you're buying. And then at the end of the day, you're stuck with a bag of assets that you can't sell and that you don't even understand or like yourself. Right. So
Just to get
if we take,
involved.
yeah, if we take it back and we say to ourselves, like, how do we onboard people into crypto where they actually understand what the point of this technology is, why blockchain and decentralization are important, why I should be buying a certain coin because of whatever reason or not, why are stable coins the ultimate alpha?
Right.
Super important. Then you can change the landscape and people will actually come in and start to work with real projects, build real dApps with real utility, real solutions for existing business models that have multiple layers of centralization, and get to the point where you have a healthy environment, not just an echo chamber of people that are passing around the same money and everyone else outside looking in saying, that's a scam. I'm not touching that.
Right. Right. That's massive. Okay, and then you quickly mentioned stablecoins is the alpha. Can you kind of elaborate on that for our audience, what you mean by that?
Yeah, so stable coins are pegged 1 to 1 to a stable form of currency. Well, technically fiat currency is not that stable, but when it comes to the value of it over time, but it's something that the entire world uses when it comes to, like, hey, what do you transact in, right? So for example, like, you might go to your barber, but your barber doesn't accept crypto. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you can use your on-chain stable coins to pay them in crypto without him knowing it's crypto. But it takes a mindset shift, because if these businesses realize that they can now be their own wallet on chain and they can accept something that isn't fluctuating up and down like crazy on a daily basis, then you have the ability to leverage the fact that it's pegged 1 to 1 to the dollar and it actually has value behind it, and you can deal with it in any sort of business transaction. So stablecoins are very important to the future of scalability and also to the future of doing business, because it's a stable, pegged 1 to 1 currency. And it also isn't fluctuating like Bitcoin or Ethereum, because it's not logical to go and spend your Bitcoin at the restaurant. Like, it
Right.
just doesn't make sense. It's more so a store of value.
Right.
But if you want to, it converts it to stablecoin, and then you can use that stablecoin to leverage the fact that you're paying for that dinner. So, that's why I say stablecoins are the ultimate alpha, because there's going to be a major stablecoin adoption that's happening over the next few years. There's going to be a lot of benefits to having stablecoins and providing additional liquidity to a token that's a stablecoin, so that you earn yield on your stablecoins, which is, again, much more safe than trying to, spend a token that is going to be worth 90% less than it is today in order to earn yield, which is irrelevant at the point of earning it because the value is down so bad.
Right. That makes sense. You think we can see things like this directly being integrated with the MetaMask card, where let's say your stable coins that are sitting on your wallet are earning a yield, or that cash back that you're getting automatically starts earning a yield, a stable yield per se.
Exactly, exactly. And,
Very cool.
we're working with Aave, we're working with a couple of different, networks and tokens and all these different things so that we can
Nice.
get to the point where the user, again, we're eliminating the levels of friction. You're earning automatic yield. You're earning automatic rewards on your crypto. You sign into a single interface and click claim once, and everything that you did for that past week or even that past day, because you could click it as many times as you want, is realized to you as a user, right? So
Right.
if we take a look at it and you say to yourself, MetaMask is building the most secure wallet. It already is one of the most secure wallets.
Right.
You're also focusing on being privacy preserving. We're focusing on guardrailing experiences for users so they could discover everything about all networks in one place. We're letting them use their crypto in real life as an instant bridge, instant finality, anywhere you can use it. Mastercard.
Right.
You're now creating an environment of this operating system that we're talking about, and the ability for people to be onboarded without having to remember 500 things about security and have to install 500 different applications and 500 different wallets. It's
Right.
now done in a privacy preserving, open source, transparent, self-custodied manner. And that is the ultimate win.
That's huge. That is huge. I love to hear about that. So just to bring it forward with some of your final closing thoughts in line with what you just said, in the next 20 years, do you think more people will be using crypto wallets like MetaMask or bank accounts 20 years from now, 2 decades from now?
I
What's your
think in 20 years from now, there will potentially be that shift of more than 50% of people defaulting to using what is logically the future of currency verification and asset management. A wallet is not just going to be something where you store your funds. A wallet is going to be something where you no longer need email addresses, usernames, passwords. You no longer need to upload your photos and videos to third-party servers. You no
right?
longer need to give your medical information to multiple institutions and have them potentially leak it on the dark web. You are
Sell it.
now the owner. You are now the owner of not only your own assets, but your own data and your own sensitive information and your own logins without having to deal with third parties and centralized servers. That's the ultimate win. That's why when you look at it at the wallet level, a wallet is no longer just a wallet. It is an operating system, and it lets you tap into anything that is part of, let's say, Web Next, not Web 3. It's the future
Right.
of the web.
Right.
So
That's huge. And see, this is why we love to do this, because I feel like the main barrier for the rest of society is education and understanding crypto. If you had one bold prediction in crypto, one hot take.
one hot take. I think that we're going to get to the point where multiple industries are realizing the benefit of removing the human element from a lot of their business structure. And when they realize that, the blockchain can leverage a lot of that work so that they don't have to have, data centers and IT teams and security, and it's all being leveraged by the blockchain. That'll
Right.
change industries very quickly. I think it's only a matter of time before that happens. It's not even like a take. I think it's like me knowing the future,
Right.
not trying to boost myself there,
You're
but
right. You're right.
I mean,
Makes
logically,
sense.
guys,
It
it's
makes sense.
logical. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the time, the answer is hiding in plain sight. And Web3 really fixes so many issues that we have today, and that a lot of people don't even know that we have. When you're talking about just centralization of currency and all these different things, inflation, all the middlemen, all the manipulation going on behind the scenes, that people don't know about. So
And
that is,
don't listen, don't get me wrong. Like, all of that stuff still exists in Web3 to an extent,
it
but there
does.
are parts of it that it doesn't need to exist. And
Right.
here's the other thing. I'm glad that mass adoption didn't happen quickly, because
Oh,
imagine there were 10 times the amount of people here and the same scams and nonsense was happening. That would be
you weren't ready.
detrimental to the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that mass adoption is taking time. It gives us the ability to build out the necessary security layers, the user interfaces, the user experiences that people need. Bring on more developers, bring on more wallet builders, bring on more dApps and people that are
Right.
building competing products. That is
Right.
healthy. That is what's
Mm,
needed. We need more developers. We need more people building things that are, directly competing with each other so that we can make each other's products better over time naturally. So it's a big win that mass adoption didn't happen quickly. I think it's going to really scale up very quickly over the next 5 years to 10 years. But this is something that's going to take decades. And it's going to take that mental mind shift before businesses even start to realize that, hey, I don't even need electricity, a computer, internet, a point of sale system, a license or a contract or a merchant service provider or even a bank, but I could still, with a simple QR code with my business's wallet address, be able to accept money from anyone that walks in because they're using crypto. Think about that. It's a mental mind shift, right? You don't need any equipment, electricity, or even a computer, but you can still accept money and you can do it in a decentralized fashion.
Right.
I mean, eventually businesses are going to say, well, why aren't we doing that? Businesses are going to actually create ways to incentivize users to use crypto as opposed to fiat, because they might say to themselves, hey, anyone that pays in crypto, you save 10%. Now they're as a business are building a crypto reserve holdings.
Right.
And now people that are coming in and paying for the same meal and noticing that someone's paying 10% less for the same thing is going to say, well, I want to pay 10% less.
Right.
So then you have that societal level of like, hey, realizing like, what exactly is this and why is this more logical? And look, there are going to be people that don't want to self-custody. They don't want to manage their own keys. They don't want to be liable for clicking on the wrong thing. And this is why in the beginning, I was like, everything needs to be decentralized. I'm a DeFi maxi. There can be no middlemen. I realized there needs to be elements of centralization in order for mass adoption to occur. Some people don't want to manage their own keys or be their own banks, but they still want to dabble and dip their toes into crypto. Right. And we shouldn't, as a crypto community, push away from that. We should embrace it and we should do it the right way and kind of have that segregation between, hey, these are the people that actually choose to self-custody. They understand the concept of being their own banks. And these are the people like our parents or grandparents that don't necessarily want to do that or risk it, but they still want to be in the same playing field and they still want to be able to invest or use those funds just like we do when we choose to self-custody.
That's huge. And I love what you said, that we weren't necessarily ready for mainstream adoption. We're still building out things like security, like infrastructure. The space isn't yet ready, but all the builders coming together, pushing each other with new products. You got Phantom, you got Metamask, you got Rabby, just a whole bunch of different projects that are getting crypto ready for mainstream adoption. Would you say that's accurate?
Very accurate, very accurate, and it's exciting. It's exciting to see every day all these different types of projects like moving forward into some capacity and discovering new things. And this is what I love about Web3 is that we can all share this information. A lot of it is public information, which is great, as opposed to Web2 where everything's behind patents, behind closed doors, everything's proprietary, and it's kind of like stagnating, progression. This is why I like, by the way, Elon Musk and his vision with Tesla and basically open sourcing all of, not patenting any of the technology and letting other car manufacturers take it and use it because it's public information. You can actually make your products better.
Right. That's huge. And that builds a greater goal of the whole ecosystem, right? It pushes the industry forward. Now, we're past this hour mark here. If you can leave the MetaMask community with one message, what would it be?
Get ready for the future because it's going to come very quickly. And I'm guaranteed that you guys are going to be satisfied with everything that we got geared up for you. It's going to be an amazing 2025. We're bridging Web 2 and Web 3. I know that's such a cliche, overused term, but we're literally doing it live. Like this is not something that we're just creating out of, like this is something that exists right now. And by the way, the metal card comes out in April. So make sure you guys sign up for the wait list. But the virtual card, which is available in over 27 regions, you can get right now. You can add it to your Apple Pay, your Google Pay, and start using your on-chain crypto immediately anywhere Mastercard is accepted, and you start earning rewards as well. So all this stuff exists right now. These are not things that we're thinking about doing, no, these are all things that have happened. You got Lava Moat, you got Metamask Snaps for developers, you got the Metamask card for the people, you got, the upcoming changes with the UI and the UX and multi-chain. These are all things that we're cooking. I know it's a lot of information that we crammed into 1 hour, but it's been an amazing hour, and really
Yeah.
appreciate you. Maybe we do a follow-up one in a few months from now and see where we're at.
Yes, please. If we can have you back on again, that would be huge. And honestly, it was totally electric. All the things that MetaMask is building. You're talking about Web 2 to Web 3 integration. I can't wait to get my hands on that card. So you said April users can actually go ahead and sign up for one. Is that when it begins rolling out?
So anyone can sign up for the virtual card right now.
Okay.
It's already out in 27 regions.
Right.
And you just go to metamask.io/card, or you go to portfolio.metamask.io and click on card.
We'll link it
And
below.
yep, you'll link it below. Perfect. And once you're there, if you are in a supported region, you could sign up and start using the card today. If you're not in a supported region, you could sign up for the wait list. And for the metal card, which is dropping next month, you could sign up for the wait list on that same page as well. So, you could start using the card right now. You could start earning rewards, and you could prep yourself for the metal card launch because you'll already be verified and ready to go.
I already know that metal card has like a nice weight to it. I definitely
Oh,
need
dude,
the
it feels amazing. Like when I hand it to people, like when they're taking the payment, they're like, "Yo," they're like, it feels like a crypto black card.
Yeah,
Like
that's the vibe is given, the Amex Black Card crypto version. So is it a tier list, like having the metal card versus the plastic card? There's a plastic one as well.
Yeah, so the virtual one has different, crypto back rates. The metal one has different crypto back rates. Actually, with the metal one, we're actually doing a couple of different cool activations down the line. For example, when you come to a ConsenSys, MetaMask, or Linea event at any of the crypto conferences, because we have them all the time, you flash this card, you're in VIP. There's no Luma or Eventbrite set up. Like we're really trying to change the landscape of like what this card can give you. For example, during ETH Denver, we did a pilot program and we released 100 of these cards to different, people in the space. And during the Pudgy Penguins and MetaMask event, there was a snow globe where you would jump in the snow globe and you'd grab as many balloons as you can. And the more balloons that you grabbed, the more USDC you got airdropped to your card on chain. So
No,
like, yeah, so think about how many cool different ways of gamifying different
that's fun.
experiences that you can now do because you have this instant bridge and
Right.
and you have proof of humanity as part of the equation. It's amazing.
That's huge. I guess I showed up too late because I actually was at the MetaMask event at ETH Denver. It was a really nice event. So they were handing out metal cards to just people in the space.
Oh, there was actually, so it's a pilot program where we released 100 of the metal cards.
Okay.
So, there's different people that, that we reached out to or that signed up for it. And we kind of like wanted to be like, hey, keep it as organic as possible. Let people that are in crypto use the card, let us know their experience and post about it and see what it's all about. And it was very successful. I mean, we were all over the timeline during ETH Denver. I mean, a single post that I made about the card got over 400,000 views on it, which was amazing. So we've seen a lot of great response and people are like, really signing up, getting on the wait list. I mean, it's exciting. This is something that's new. And
Yeah,
like everyone could benefit from it.
and the fact that you can use it worldwide is crazy. I looked at the list. I don't think I saw Canada on the list at launch. Do you
So
know anyone from the-
Canada, yeah. So Canada, the UAE, Dubai, a lot of regions in Africa, some regions in Southeast Asia. Those are all coming out by the end of Q3.
Okay.
Also Latin America by the end of Q3, and then by the end of the year, hopefully all of Southeast Asia and globally. Currently, it's available in the US, UK, Europe, Colombia, a bunch of different regions. All the info's on the website, but the goal is to have a global adoption by the end of the year.
That's massive. Where can people find you if they want to see what you're posting, what you're looking at, what you're doing?
Yeah. Let me actually share my screen here real quick and I'll just pop my Twitter page.
Perfect.
So yeah, michaelk.eth is the display name. michaelkdcl is the username. I have the official MetaMask badge next to my name. So you're following the real Michael K. And yeah, I post tons of great content. I post ways to not get scammed. I mean, this is unlimited value in knowledge. I'm never going to tell you to go buy a token or to, go buy an NFT, but I will drop unlimited alpha, unlimited value and knowledge. Here's a recent thread that I did regarding what antivirus to use, what VPN to use, what ad blocker to use, all in one thread with layman terminology. I did this the other day. There's already over 400 likes, 340 bookmarks, 56,000 views. So I'm dropping
Popping off.
unlimited value and knowledge when it comes to this. So please make sure you're following the right account.
Michael, absolute Chad from MetaMask. Now, as you can see, he's sharing value. Thank you so much for joining the show. You shared so much valuable information, and we got to do this again soon. We need an update when some of these new features finally roll out, or at least when I get my MetaMask card. I'm going to be so excited.
Definitely, definitely. It feels good using it the first time, bro. You're like, yo, that actually worked. You know, like it's such a great feeling. It's such a great feeling. Super excited. Thank you again, Josh. It's been an amazing space.
100%. And we'll catch you in the next one. Take care, guys.